anyway, today we are going to carve a Fricks whole bone and ham. First of all, I'd like to show you a couple of things about the ham, if you don't already know. But on top here, this big muscle here is called the inside muscle. The inside is, of course, from the top or the inside of the leg. And then we roll it over to the back, and this is the outside muscle. And the outside is, of course, the outside of the leg. And the third large muscle in ham is the knuckle. The knuckle is probably the most tender part of the ham. Get this turned around where I can work on it. First of all, we have the H-bone. This is the hip bone. It is shaped in the form of a wedge. So I will take my knife and I will trace around this, angling it in like a wedge. I'll go from one end and back around. Next, I will remove the shank. The shank is attached to the femur bone. The femur bone is attached to the H-bone. I'll remove the H-bone, then the shank, and then I will remove this large boneless piece of meat. It will actually have most of the top and a little bit of the bottom on it, and that'll be a boneless piece of meat. When I'm done there, the femur bone I will roll out, and it'll make the third large piece of meat. My trusty old knife, about 40 years old, still serves me well. Okay, now I'm ready to remove the H-bone. So I'm going to trace around it with my knife, always wedging it in as far as I can to still feel the bone. This is probably the most difficult part, and you don't have to do this at home. You can always just cut around it. I just do it because I've been doing it this way for a long time. So once again, you can, if you don't feel like you have it released really good the first time, go around it another time. And then, now I've traced all the way around it, wedging my knife inwards towards the wedge of the bone. Now, this is the part people have trouble with. I'm going to apply pressure, I'm going to pull this bone towards me. Inside of this, there's a connective tissue or a connective tendon. And you got to put the tip of your knife in. See, I use a wore out knife because it's got a thin tip. And I put it down in there and pow, it just released. And then you just cut along this and it, bam, it releases. See, there's no waste there, and it still makes a very nice seasoning for when you cook beans or greens or whatever. It's just way lower fat than bacon drippings and more flavorful. So that's been removed. Now I'm ready to remove the shank. And the shank is going to run up here to the stifle joint. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of the skin. Now this is the only skin on the ham. It's collared all the way down to pretty much the shank. So then again, you want to save this excellent seasoning. Just throw that in with your green beans or whatever you're seasoning. Wonderful. Okay, so now I want to remove the shank. I'm going to follow the shank up, and then I'm going to turn and try to find that stifle joint. I'm going to come up and I can kind of feel it with my knife. This is a little bit difficult too, but once you find it and a little practice, you'll be a pro in no time. And again, if you don't or can't find it or can't get it cut up, don't worry about it. There's no wrong way. You could just cut around it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove this, and I like to roll this out. And then again, we've got more seasoning for the meats. This is all really good meat on here. So now I am ready to split my ham. I'm going to go ahead and use one of the breaking knives. And you don't have to do it. I can do it with either knife. I could do it with a pocket knife if I had to. A bigger knife would help though in this. So I'm going to cut it right along this femur bone. And I'm going to stay close to it as I can. You know, there's no wrong way. Now I got this giant, huge piece, this very large piece, and it's totally boneless. I'm going to turn this back over because I noticed when I split this, there was a little bit of red up here, and it's, you know, it's fully cooked product, nothing to concern you. This is a primal cut of meat. It's the back leg of a hog. So, you know, you're gonna see some things like that. It's the most primitive form of meat you can buy pretty much today. This has been around since man versus pig. But if it's less desirable, you don't like it, we just trim that piece off, you know. Just wanted to point out that it is 100% USDA inspected, certified, fully cooked. So I'm going to set this kind of to the side and continue. The shank is off, the hitch bone, the H bone is off, and now I'm going to roll out this femur bone. So just follow the bone with short, shallow cuts. We don't want to go too deep because we're trying to put this all into one piece. So I'm going to keep following the bone, and the bone's got, you know, bone's got the other little knob. So I'm going to come around the knob and stay next to the bone and keep rolling the bone, following the shape. Now I'm going to get to this end, come off that, and I'm going to release that bone on this end. Now I'm going to continue my shallow cuts so we don't waste any meat, and come down and go right to. So here we go. This is the femur bone, totally removed. Then again, this goes in the pot of red beans and rice. So that's a whole new story there. I got this little kneecap, if you want to call it, this little. I'm just going to remove that. And red beans and rice. Now I have two giant muscles. This one's too big for slicing. So we're going to cut that down into in half, into two pieces. Now I'm ready to slice. Everything you see here is 100% boneless. So there's my inside, my outside, and my knuckle. And you can see that all of these are long, and you want to slice them that way, just from end to end. That way you're slicing against the grain and get the most desirable slices. Let's start with my knuckle. Just going to start on this end and work my way to the other end. And the knuckle is so tender, it just falls apart. It is the most tender part of the ham, and these slices down here on the end are just actually starting to fall apart. But it is absolutely the best part of the ham. So now I'm going to remove this from my cutting board, so make room for more. And next we have the inside muscle. This one makes really pretty slices. It all tastes wonderful. Again, continue to slice. Now this is the inside. Now those that are familiar with the bone-in ham steak, you can see that that is just a piece of that bone-in ham steak. And this little flap is called the gracilis muscle that is on those ham steaks. So you can imagine bone over here and the surrounding and making a complete steak. And then again, over to the cutting board for now. Now I've got the final piece I'm going to slice. This is the outside muscle. You notice you can trim whatever you want to so your guests don't have to trim. Or, you know, I do it a little rough. I kind of like it that way. But this has got a little piece of fat on the inside, the internal fat. I like to remove that just so that your guests won't have to fight with it on their dinner table or on their plate. That looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to start my slicing again. Start from one end and work your way to the other. Okay, I sliced the entire ham, and now no one's here yet, so I'm going to place this back in the roaster pan it came from. And now I'm going to cover this with foil. I'm going to stick it back in the oven to keep it warm until we're ready for it. 170 degrees for an hour, hour and a half. Anything longer than that, you might be drying the ham out. So if you're really worried about it and gotta go a little longer, put a half a cup of water in here before you put the foil on. We've completed deboning and slicing a whole bone-in ham. Congratulations, you're about to eat the best ham on the planet. Bon appetit.